Hi, you guys. Happy Tuesday. For those who don't know me, my name is Jessica Nichols, and welcome to Happy Moms. If you are new to the group, I want to say a big welcome. This space is something that I'm super passionate about. It truly allows me a space to be creative, have fun, love on moms, because I am a mom of two. I have a 9 and almost 12-year-old. And a few years back, I found myself overwhelmed, burnt out, super reactive, overweight, uncomfortable in my skin. And my marriage was in shambles. And I had always wanted to be a mom. And I remember having a moment where I was like, this is it. Like, this is, I want to love being a mom. I love my kids with everything that I have, but this is it. This is what we strive for. And I just was like, this can't be it. Like, I don't feel joy. I don't feel spark. I don't feel passion. I feel more stress. I feel more overwhelmed. I feel all of these feelings, and how do I change that? And so I really went down this deep dive rabbit hole of taking care of me. I started putting myself first. I started investing in myself. I hired a nutrition coach. I started going to the gym, walking, working on meal prepping and learning how to fuel my body the right way. And what was amazing is I started to see mental health shifts. I started to see just a whole different light, like blinders, like the fog was being risen, and I was able to look at my kids differently. I was able to have more patience. I was able to have just a different outlook on things. And I took a 90-day U-turn course that was a game changer for me. I learned about my past and how our childhood truly affects the way that we think and the decisions we make and the way we react to things. Like, it truly is, our subconscious is programmed from early ages. And until we are aware of that so that we can change it, nothing changes. You think you're broken. You think there's something wrong with you. You think that this is just how life is supposed to be. Moms run on E, right? That's just who we are. It's what we do. We give, and then we give some more. But the truth is that that doesn't have to be how it is. And so I really sat and was like, I can't be the only mom who has felt this way. I can't be the only mom who wants more, who wants to truly come home and spend the few hours that we get after work for working moms with our kids, and want it to be something that we enjoy, something we look forward to, not something we dread, not something that is spent feeling overstimulated and overwhelmed and like you need a break. So I started Happy Moms. I started Happy Moms to give moms an outlet, a space to prioritize themselves, to come and just be supportive. A lot of times in motherhood, we can feel lonely. And so I want this group to be something full of resources, something full of love, something full of a safe place for you to just really come and be okay with investing in you, being okay with taking time to get to know you. Who are you? Because the relationship you have with yourself is the most important relationship you will have, because if you are not okay, then the people around you will not be either. Your family, your unit, your relationship, your marriage, your relationship with your kids, it all begins and ends with you. So today we have a special guest. That is something that I like to do in this space, is bring in special guests to talk about different topics. And this topic is something that Kim is super passionate about, and I am as well, because mental health is everything. In a world where mental health was not something growing up. I didn't know what personal development was. I didn't know what your mental health was. I didn't realize that I had severe anxiety until not that long ago. And understanding as a kid, I was growing up with all these big emotions and people-pleasing tendencies, and I didn't even know that I had anxiety until I was an adult. And so Now we have the ability to educate. We have the ability to understand. And if we can understand and know now, if we can really learn about ourselves and learn about emotions and how to handle triggers and things like that, we can then spill it down into our kids. We can teach our kids from a younger age about emotions. I mean, now we have the Inside Out movies. Like there is an emphasis on emotions. There is an emphasis on mental health, understanding what anxiety is, understanding what joy is, understanding what anger is, and all of those things. And I think it's a beautiful thing, and something that we should do is be having these conversations with our kids. And my son is a beautiful soul. He is one of the kindest, most generous, loving people you will meet, who was diagnosed with ADHD last year. Now, that is something that I had thought about for years, because he just there were just signs, but for some reason I thought I was failing him if for some reason he did. Have you ever felt like you're failing your kids? And so I sat with his teacher, who said, there's nothing wrong with asking for help. There's nothing wrong with getting him the resources. And why do we put carry such a weight with asking for help, whether it's for us, whether it's in a marriage, whether it's with our kids? We too often don't ask for help, and we suffer in silence. We have to stop suffering in silence, because it is taking a toll on our mental health. And by not asking for help, I was taking a toll on his mental health. I was doing him no justice by not asking for help, by not getting him the resources he needs. And the difference between saying, okay, let's do what's best for him, despite how I think it makes me look as a mom, he is thriving. He is doing so well because I chose to stop putting my thoughts on what being a good mom is and started actually being a good mom and putting his needs first, and taking away the stigma of ADHD and mental health and all of the different things that really come with that. There's so many emotions that come, but awareness is everything, because when we're aware of something, we can create space for change. And I am going to invite my special guest, Kim, on, who has an incredibly heartfelt story of navigating her own mental health journey with her own child. So let me where's Kim? Let's see, here we go. I'm going to add Kim in. I'm going to send you an invite. I had no intentions of shedding any tears on this video, so hi.
Hi, how are you?
Well, I'm good. I don't know where the tears came from, but this is such a passionate topic of mine that I honestly, when I was preparing for this, I didn't even think of like ADHD as a mental illness, or like just a mental health topic, right? And so I was doing like a little research, and I was kind of preparing for this. And it like literally hit me just 15 minutes before I started this live. Like, I was affecting his mental health by not by trying to make him fit in a box, right? By making him learn like everybody else, like allowing him to struggle because I was not getting him the services he needed. Like, I was affecting, and it just all came to me like, and I was doing that because I thought I was a bad mom. Like, I thought that I was failing him by not allowing him, by saying, no, he's okay. Like, he's okay. He doesn't know. He's fine. He's just a boy. He's just a boy. It's just a phase. He'll get through it. And it like just hit me that, like, when I finally was able to say, no, we need to get him resources, when I was able to be like, take the advice of the professionals and say, no, like, let's get him diagnosed so we can get him the resources he needs. And now he's thriving. What, like, just an aha moment that I had no intentions of having.
That's okay. I will probably get teary-eyed through my talk as well. It hits the heart, and it hits the heart hard. I really appreciate you inviting me to talk about this today because I think it is so important to know for every parent out there.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you for
you.
taking the time and saying yes, and being here. So let's dive right in. Will you tell us a little bit about who you are, where you're from, what you do?
Yeah, so my name is Kimberly Bloom, and I have three beautiful daughters. They are 25, 17, and 15. I have been with my husband for right about 19 years now, I believe. And I am from Colorado. So, funny enough, I have spent 33 years in mental health, but in finance and accounting. So, not as a clinician, right? But you can't spend 33 years in mental health and not learn some things. And given that community mental health gets a lot of funding from federal agencies, there's trainings that we have to do every quarter. And I always thought they were ridiculous. I don't anymore, right? I've learned some different clinical skills. I wouldn't know how to use them, honestly, in a clinical setting, but it's helped me to better understand what's been happening in our world.
Okay.
So I am also the founder and CEO of a company called Bloom Healthy Connections. We are just now getting off the ground, so I'm super excited. Our mission is to empower parents of children with a mental illness to reimagine their parenthood, find balance, build confidence, and find the way to travel down this really unexpected and very frustrating path at times. So I'm super excited to be here tonight as we're just getting started, and there's lots of good things coming from our company.
Awesome. I'm so excited for you, and I can't wait to
Thanks.
watch this journey unfold because I know it's going to be an amazing one. Will you tell us a little bit about your story?
I will. And I thought I'd start with some statistics. And so this first statistic that I want to start with is one I've actually known all these 33 years I've worked in mental health. But mental health is way more common than we probably all realize. So 1 in 5 US adults will experience some sort of a mental issue, mental health issue every year. And I'm going to stop 1 minute and say I am not a clinician. I don't treat patients, and my wording might drive somebody who is clinically trained crazy. So I apologize. Bear with the rest of us who are not clinically trained, but I will use probably issues and disorders interchangeably. I'm going to get down on the kids a little bit. 1 in 6 kids ages 6 to 17 will experience a mental health issue each year. 1 in 3 young adults aged 18 to 25 will experience a mental illness or disorder or issue each year. And interestingly enough, 50% of all lifetime mental illnesses begins at age 14. What's also interesting about that is that the more severe and persistent mental illnesses are not diagnosed until adulthood. So you will see kiddos being diagnosed with anxiety or depression or ADHD, but you will not see the bigger ones until they're an adult, because the kids' brains are sloughing off cells in their teenage years. They're going through lots of hormonal changes. It's so different from everyone. That a lot of times the behaviors that are normal teenage behaviors and mental health behaviors can look the same.
Interesting.
Yeah, so 75% of those with a lifetime mental illness will be diagnosed by the age of 24. And this next one kills my heart. And I'm going to say this is a 2020 number. And what I realized in doing my research was that I think they pull these numbers out about every 4 years because everybody had 16 to 20. But the numbers that came out in 2020 of kids 12 to 17, 3 million of them had serious thoughts of suicide.
Oh,
Of kiddos, and I'm going to call them kiddos 18 to 25, 3.8 million of them had a serious thought of suicide. All of these stats I got from NAMI.org, which is the National Alliance for Mentally Ill. So please, everybody, feel free to go out there. They are full of resources on symptoms and how to get help and stats and so forth. So with these stats, what I want to say is everybody on this call has known at least one person, probably more, with a mental illness or has gone through some sort of maybe depression at some point, or anxiety, or so forth. The most commonly diagnosed mental health disorders in kids are ADHD, anxiety, behavior disorders, and depression, just to kind of lay the field. So I want to start with Nami's explanation of mental illness, because as I get into my story, you'll realize how much more mental illness impacts a person with mental illness and their families. So Nami explains it as a condition that affects a person's thinking, feeling, behavior, mood, which deeply impact day-to-day living and the ability to relate to others. When I read that, I feel like it goes so much deeper when you're impacted. It goes so much deeper when it is your child. And this isn't talked about a lot because of the stigma. It's not talked about a lot because when we go into the schools, we see parents who don't accept our kids the way they are. We see other kids not accepting our kids the way we are, and we hide behind some of those shadows. And it is time to talk, because more of those kids are suffering than we really know. Okay, so I'm going to start also by saying parenthood is tough. It is tough if you have completely healthy kiddos. And we all want to be perfect parents, and that's just not possible. There isn't a book that is a fit-all for everybody, parents or kids. So we go through this journey and we figure it out as we go. And that means that we will fail. It means we will thrive. It means we will fall down. It means we will learn from our mistakes. But taking them and taking those steps, I think, are some of the biggest. So my oldest daughter, she was almost 26. My first husband and I adopted her from Human Services. So she came to live with us right before she was 2. And she, as every parent will say, was the most beautiful. She is the most intelligent. She does whatever she puts her mind to, she does it amazing. And we saw that right from the beginning, right? I can talk about putting her in soccer team at, 3 or 4. And she would grab that ball and dribble it down to score without a whole lot of coaching, right? Amazing. And you watch that, and as every parent does, whether you're holding your newborn or you've welcomed a kiddo into your family, you see what they can be. You see what they can do. And I think one of the hardest parts of parenting is knowing maybe that's not the plan for them. Right? So I am asked often, did we notice anything earlier? And as I look back and I looked at the symptoms on the NAMI FAMI website, I will say one of the things that we did notice with her, and we brushed it off, was that she would have very frequent and very sometimes aggressive temper tantrums. Sometimes she would pull out chunks of hair. And we really wrote it off to, right, she had gone through big change. She had been placed in a foster care as a baby. She had come, and she knew me the whole time. I did respite for that foster home, but it was still a change, right? So we kind of wrote it off, and we really worked with her through coping skills. I will say we did see some of that spark back up when my first husband and I were going through a divorce. We did see her ability to cope with her emotions was really, really hard. And there were times we couldn't get her to settle down. There was one night where she took, right, a little porcelain jewelry box, smashed it against the wall, and started cutting up her hands.
Oh my
To which point I said, we need to get her into therapy. She was 5 or 6 years old. And this was the first time I hit the stigma, right? I heard about it at work all day long, but this was the first time I hit a wall, and that was with her dad. And his response was, what happens in these 4 walls stays in these 4 walls, and that's how it's going to be. In my mind, I was like, well, your 4 walls are no longer my 4 walls, and I'm getting her into therapy. But here's the catch with therapy. Both parents have to sign the paperwork. So it does make it hard, right, for a single parent who maybe is not getting along with their ex-spouse.
Right.
I coerced him. We got her into therapy, right? And he came, right? I made sure he came and that we both sat there at every session, even though we're not allowed in. If we're invited, yes, we were allowed in at the end to get updates. But we sat there, so she knew we were both there to support her, which I think was most important. And honestly, we worked on those coping skills, and she was doing very well. And the therapist wrote that off to being issues from the divorce and discharged us, and we went on our way. And I honestly can say I don't know that I saw any other symptoms really until about the age of 14. And one of the first things that I saw right away was a decline in school. So she had always done very well. School came easy to her. But I remember driving up to the orthodontist appointment one day, and she goes, "Oh, Mom, I have 2 Fs," and went to get out of the car. And I was like, so we're early enough, you can sit back down. We're going to have this conversation. Right? And at first she was saying, none of the other kids show up with their homework done, and then we go over it in class. It's a waste of my time. So, right, just setting some rules in our household. It's important to us that you learn. You will probably learn more by re-reviewing. You need to be doing at least your homework. The next thing that started to come up for us was that she had very long periods of being very angry and very irritable. And they weren't, I would say with my younger two now, like maybe they'll come home, it's been a bad day, they don't want to talk to me about it, right? They go inward and you see that. But at least by the next day, they perked up a little bit, right? They're ready to have a little more of a conversation. And that had stopped happening with Kenzie. She would stay angry and irritable, and her responses were harsh at times. And then the next thing that came along for us, one morning we were going, I believe that morning my husband had taken Kenzie and our middle daughter to school, and I had the youngest to get to preschool. She needed to bring some sort of a little ladybug. And I was like, oh, Kenzie has a stuffed ladybug. Let me go grab it. And so at that point, 14-year-olds, she had him tucked under her bed. And I'm digging, and there flew out an empty beer can. And I was like, okay, not the time to react. Find the ladybug. Second beer can. So found the ladybug. I got our youngest to school. And lucky enough, my husband and I worked at the same place. So my husband is a licensed clinician. He actually does the admin side of work for mental health centers, of training clinicians, building programs, monitoring programs, things like that. So I grabbed him, and we both took off work early. So we were there right when Kenzie came home to have the conversation. And her response was reasonable for a teenager. I just wanted to see what it tasted like. So I tried to, okay, let's reset the boundaries. I know we've set these about drinking, but let's set them again.
Right.
Right? So we did so, and we went on about our way. The anger and the irritability continued. And now it was also hard to get her out of bed every morning. It was like pulling teeth to get her up and moving in the mornings. And I remember one morning I made a shake every morning for work, and I had opened the freezer door to get, the bag of frozen fruit, and I went to shut it. And this movement caught my eye in the freezer. So I opened the drawer back up, and we had a bottle of vodka in there from, I think, New Year's. We had some friends over and we made a drink. So we probably used this much of the bottle. So the liquid did not move. And on this particular day, the liquid flew, flowed right across. So again, another conversation. I honestly today don't remember what it was that she said, because at that point I was also calling to get her back into therapy. So we called, we got her back in. We really called and just said, we have anger management issues. I really need help, right? We're here again. And for the third time, how do we give her coping skills, right? How do we work with her? This isn't going to be healthy the older that she gets. So when a kiddo is 14 or 15, they get to choose how much parents get to know about their therapy. So it makes it really hard sometimes, right? Therapists do their best to keep you updated, but you're allowed in to have conversations as she allows. So we had some updates here and there. some of the things seem to be getting a little bit better, I thought. And this is going to bring us up to what I call the day our worlds fell apart. And a little, before the day, maybe Thursday of that week, and for whatever reason, she was grounded from her phone that week. I think we had found that she was staying up all night on it instead of sleeping, which would definitely contribute to why we couldn't get her up in the morning, right? There was always some reason that flowed through our heads. And this particular day, I walked in and her hands went right behind her back. And I was like, please, what do you have? So it was a phone, and it was a brand new iPhone. And there was even a box sitting there as well that I hadn't noticed when I first walked in. And so, right, our discussion around it was not okay to get it when you're grounded. Where did it come from? She said a friend. I said, we'll have that friend's parent call me, and I'll return it to the parent after a conversation. I have yet today to hear from a parent, so I'm not sure where that phone came from. But I can't imagine a parent would have been very happy that that expensive of a phone just disappeared. So Thursday, Friday, we just watched what was going on. We did make sure we weren't coming in with a phone, we thought. And Saturday, I was actually gone all day Saturday. I had gone to a mentorship program, a self-help program. So I honestly came home stoked. I had learned a lot. We had worked on ourselves so much that day. I was feeling great. And I walked in the door, and my very patient husband, who can take most things without reacting, was upset. And I looked at him and I was just like, what is going on? And he said, Kenzie has been in her room all day. I asked her to clean it. She has not. She has not even come out from the other side of the bed. And he respects her boundaries very well and says, and not knowing how she's dressed or what she's doing, I haven't felt comfortable going over there myself. And I'm the only one home with all three of them today. So he said, would you please watch the little ones and I will run up and see what's going on. He said, and there has been an extra device on our internet all day. Mm-hmm. So he goes upstairs and he comes down a few minutes later, more upset than he was when he went up. And I'm going to tell you, there's this book, and I think it's amazing. It's called Raising Kids with Big Baffling Behaviors by Robin Goebel. And she talks a lot about our brain. So the front part of our brain is our thinking brain. The middle part is that feeling part. And the back part is our reactionary part. And so the premise of her book is, as kids move through these pieces, you can't really talk to them when they're back here, right? You really need them up here to have thoughtful conversations. I wish I had known all of this way back then. But what I can say that day is both my husband, and the other thing about the book is that as a parent or as a partner, works with partners as well, if one starts going back, you just kind of automatically follow unless you stop yourself.
Right.
So I could see that happening without knowing this. I've learned it, within recent years. So Disney was the babysitter to the two younger ones last night. That night, I put on their favorite movie and I went upstairs. And when I walked into that room, what I heard my husband say is, where are the rest of the razor blades? And I didn't know what to say or do. And he was pulling her drawers out and he was starting to dump them on the bed, explaining very clearly, it's not safe for me to put my hands in here. He had apparently nicked himself. And from what I understand, I think he had found her cutting when he went up there. In the course of that night, we found several razor blades. We found broken pieces of mirror, broken pieces of glass. We found empty packets of Benadryl. We found fake social media profiles on the phone that she had up there. And those profiles were full of suicide ideations and eating disorder. We found her diary, which with her, he looked at, I did not. And in there, it talked about how she had taken a full box of Benadryl one night to try to suicide. I'm going to start with her. She was so full of anger that night that she came at me with how terrible of a mom I am, that I did not notice and that I missed all of this. She came at me with, how could you not know I tried to suicide and see that the next morning when I didn't get out of bed? And in my mind, I'm like, you haven't gotten out of bed right for 2 months. I thought we were on top of it, right? I thought we knew what was happening. I myself probably went through every emotion in the book. But the first one was, am I that terrible of a mom that I missed the signs of my kiddo hurting so bad? The insides of her thighs, and she had started on her arms. This was March, so she had had the whole winter to hide her arms behind her sleeves, had been shredded and were scarred.
Oh, my heart.
We, like I said, finished going through the room, getting rid of stuff. We got everybody to bed. Somehow the younger two, luckily they love Disney so much. There were several movies for them that night. Probably to this day couldn't tell you what happened that night. We went through the house. We gathered all of the alcohol. We gathered every razor blade we could find. We gathered every medicine, Benadryl, Tylenol, cough medicine, ibuprofen, all of it. And the next day, my husband put locks on our closet doors, and all of that was put into the closet so that she couldn't get to it. And then we had the thoughts, well, what do we do here? Because part of our thoughts were, what in the actual heck, I'll go there, has been happening in therapy for the last 2 months?
Right.
Right? We have been trying to get her help. I had seen some of the signs. I just didn't know how far it had all gone. So we started with my husband calling the therapist, and I needed to call Kenzie's dad. We started with figuring out a plan because it didn't feel safe for her to be home alone after school. We started working on how to take care of her and get her safe and get her help. And so we did switch therapists at that point, but I will say the original one was surprised, which again angered us even more. And her immediate response was that we needed to get her into one of the community mental health centers, into their intensive programs, and that's how she needed to spend her days. And my husband at the time, and I have learned, and he has always said, a clinician should never treat a family member. Like, I don't think we need to go that far.
Right.
So we got her in with another therapist, and it was become pretty clear that she had been doing a lot of eating disorder type things. I'm not sure which spectrum she would have been on. So we found somebody who specialized in eating disorders, and we found somebody who was familiar with working with teens, right, and doing all of that. And I will say, and this is the biggest lesson I think anybody who has a family member or a child with a mental illness will learn, is that therapy only goes as far as the patient is willing to go. So you can't force them to do what they need to do in those sessions. You can't force them to try to get healthy when they don't think they're sick.
Right.
So while we were getting help, it wasn't exactly the help she needed because she wasn't ready and willing to do the work. So, right, we managed through the next few years of high school, and I will say that her ups and downs came often. There were days she would be extremely happy, and there were days she would be very angry and irritable. She fought every rule in the house, and I'm telling you, we didn't have hard rules for her. Put your dishes in the dishwasher when you're done. Clean up your room. She insisted she wanted to do her own laundry. I figured it out. It was because she didn't want the battle of having to put her clothes away. So she thought, I'll just do laundry and dump it on my floor and then do the whole batch again. I'm like, you're not doing every bit of your clothing every week. She fought against a curfew. She thought it should be perfectly okay to spend the night at a boyfriend's house every night. Which some of those really are typical teenage battles, right? Who doesn't fight their kiddo to clean their room? Who doesn't fight their kiddo to put their dishes in the dishwasher? So again, like, some of it is what's teenage,
Right.
what's not, right? Still the battle, but we had had a lot of signs. We knew that therapy, there was no other answer besides having her in professional help. So my kiddo was so smart, she figured out how to graduate a semester early. And interestingly enough, her birthday is also in December. So she had herself set up to graduate the December of her senior year. And at that point, right, that was kind of our number one rule. She wanted to drop out of school along the way. And we were said, no, it's so important for you to at least have a high school diploma. That way you're set up, right, really well for whatever you want to do later. So she complied, she got that diploma, and her goal was to move out as soon as she had that okay from school that she had enough to graduate. Unfortunately, she was in a pretty serious car accident at that same time. And so she ended up home a few more months. But I will tell you, the day they took the neck brace off and she was cleared for her neck injuries, she moved right in with that boyfriend. And I think that she thought that that made her the adult and that there was a certain amount of respect that we needed to give her, and was surprised it's still, like, we're still going to hold some of these boundaries, right? She thought we would pay her way. We were very clear that if this is your choice, you get a job. What happened between the ages of 18 and 23 was that she bounced from boyfriend to boyfriend's house. Most of them lived with their parents. She became hooked on cocaine. She was drinking at least a bottle of vodka a day. She was not holding down a job. And luckily there's 4 parents for her, because as one of us would make her mad, she would shut that person out of her life for a period of time. But we would play tag to make sure there was always one of the 4 of us that she would be in contact with. Right? And we had to watch this happen. And our interactions with her, she made sure, were very little. Many a times they turned into a lot of rage, a lot of telling me what a terrible person I am, a lot of cussing, right? And I will say, as a mom, that breaks a person down. You do start to believe that at one point or another. We definitely saw some psychotic episodes during that time. And as a parent, and I had this conversation often with her dad, he's like, let's lock her up. I'm like, that's just not how it works these days. Why aren't they putting her on hold? I'm like, well, she's not threatening self or others with harm. And so we would look at, have we done enough to be in a position to think, if we get that call one day, do we feel like we did enough to try to save her? It's got to be one of those hardest years. Almost got through without a tear. And I will tell you, it'll be 2 years ago in October, I got the call. And she had overdosed. And her boyfriend had found her unconscious and had called 911. And by the time the paramedics got there, her whole respiratory system had started to shut down, so they ventilated her right there before they got her into the ambulance. And it was questionable whether or not she would come out of it, and it was questionable whether or not she would come out of it and have all of her mental capacities. If I ever thought alone or as a horrible parent beforehand, sitting in the ICU watching her lifeless body has got to be one of the worst experiences for a parent. My husband was manning things at home. Our younger kids were very upset. Kind of a side joke. I sat there with my ex-husband and his wife the whole time, which are not people I would have gone to with my heartfelt feelings. Sorry. Right?
Right.
You don't always know who to go to. I do have those friends who are support systems, but I have those friends and family members who are also not support systems, and
Yeah.
you feel lonely and you feel locked down. It was at that point I decided to take all of the self-help skills I have learned, and I needed to go out and help others. I needed to help other parents who were sitting in that same place or hearing those same words or going through those same up and downs and not knowing what tomorrow brings. I will say my other two kiddos definitely have been dealing with anxiety and depression. We definitely have gotten them help. And I will say their path is going to be different. I don't see those same things, right, that I see with Kinsey. I will say the blessing in that day was that it scared her. She did not mean to overdose. She was trying to get attention in a different way, and it went too far. When she did come out of it, thankfully, she came out of it with all of her faculties and was put on that hold that her dad has been wanting all these years. And when she came out sober. So for parents who are not aware, anybody who's on drugs and alcohol, and it's very common for a teenager who's dealing with all of this to start dabbling, it makes it harder to get them help later because clinicians, psychiatrists cannot work with a kiddo who comes in or an adult who is high. So they will be turned away until they can come back sober. She was sober. She was sober. She was on a 72-hour hold. And I think all of our hearts lifted. She was willing to go into an IOP program, which is it's like an inpatient, but it's an outpatient program. You go all day long. And all four of us, it wasn't close, tag teamed, making sure she got back and forth. The goal was to get her into one of the community mental health centers, right? Because they have all around care. They can offer the DBT and the CBT classes that she really needs right now, those group support systems. They can offer the individual, they can offer psychiatric, they can help her with benefits to pay for all of this, and they can also help her with housing. So while we are not there yet, I have not gotten her I've gotten her in the door. I have not gotten her to continue. And again, I can't force her. She knows I'm going to ask her every time, and she just smiles at me when I do. I think she'd be sad if I didn't ask at this point. We did get her out of a living situation that was terrible, and we've managed to get her 1 year at least where she can be on her own. She's at least taking her meds that she gets from her PCP's office. I mean, we've kind of stabilized. But I will tell you, part of the relationship that's grown in the last 2 years was because I stopped and I got some help for myself. I did that same 90-day U-turn, and I realized how I was getting in the way. And I realized the expectation that for her to be around us, she had to be clean and sober isn't a reality. So yes, she is not on cocaine anymore, and she is not drinking bottles of vodka. She is still smoking pot, and she's drinking beer. She cannot do it at our house, and she knows that. And if she wants to take her sister anywhere, she knows she better show up very sober. We have drawn clear boundaries. She knows what to expect from me. She has called recently to come over and talk about some things that were very upsetting to her. And when she left, she said, "Thank you for answering the phone, because I would have gone and got cocaine to deal with this." So we have come a long way. And again, hence why I'm starting my business, because I think it's important to help others. So I'm sure there's a lot of parents on here who are wondering, well, what are all those symptoms? I shared a lot of the symptoms that were worrisome for us. And I think the thing to really think about is how long are those symptoms lasting? And I'm going to say, if in your gut you feel like something is wrong, trust your gut. Don't ask for other people's advice. Accept a professional. Don't ask your friend. Don't ask your parent. They haven't been down the road. You know your kiddo better than anyone else. And if that happy kiddo is not that same happy kiddo, and you feel like there's something else wrong, I urge you to go get professional help. Go ask the questions. Go have your kiddo have a conversation with a professional. Some of the other symptoms that were on the NAMI website were, the excessive sad or lows, extreme changes in moods, the irritability or the anger that I've talked about, avoiding friends or social activities, a change in sleeping habits, thoughts of suicide, the inability to carry out the daily problems, a change of how things are happening at school. And what I noticed when I was looking through those is they did have a section for in young children. And in young children, they did have frequent temper tantrums, disobedience, aggression, nightmares, or behavior. And I will say, as a parent who's also gone through all of this, that as you said in the beginning, this is not our fault, right? These are things that are happening to our kids, and to ignore them and not help them, and to worry about what other people think who are not on your journey, is so detrimental. I have some different tips. I don't know. I know we're live. I don't know if there were any questions or anything. That was pretty heavy, so I kind of want to lift out of the heavy a little bit.
There's a couple of things that you said. First, I want to, this is heavy, and to be able to share it, say it out loud. And it wasn't that long ago. Like, you're still living this. And so to be able to, the thing that kept coming to me, I was taking notes because there were so many things that I was like, oh my gosh, a good point. I just keep seeing, like, and I've said it before for my own, which is not nearly as drastic, but like finding a purpose for the pain. Like, you are capable, you are going through this because you're capable of going through it, because you're going to change somebody's life because of it. Like, you are going to make somebody else's journey, you're going to make the awareness sooner. You're going to help them understand deeper so that they don't feel like they have no idea. Or when they see these symptoms, they're like, wait a second, maybe this is something. They're going to be able to speak up for themselves. They're going to know that it's okay to go at and reach and ask for help and get a professional's opinion. Because I think, like, your case in point, like, it doesn't matter how traumatic, how simple, how, easy, how hard, moms really tend to just beat themselves up. They struggle with the thought that, we're ruining these kids. How did we miss these signs? What are we doing wrong? I had a difficult conversation with my daughter last night. I went for a walk and I said to myself, like, what am I, like, am I getting this royally wrong? Like, how am I? And our mental health matters too. And so we have to be doing what is necessary to make sure that we're okay, because it's very easy to spiral in these downward patterns if we're not taking care of ourselves, of letting these thoughts and feelings, take control, where it is, we do find ourselves being like, we can't do this. We weren't made for this. How did we not see this? Why do we not, why are we, why are we struggling this bad? Why do they hate me? Why am I not getting this right? When the truth is that none of them came with manuals. None of them,
No.
none of them came with manuals. We had no, I think there's also this, we just have this instinctive, we're moms, we know what to do. And it's okay to say, I'm a mom and I don't know what to do.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
And so the awareness is everything. And I love that you are creating awareness around this topic for others.
Thank
Um,
you.
I would love to hear the tips that you have. And I would love to hear if you have tips for mom who, are seeing signs, who are actually going through this. I know that there's moms in this group, and I'm going to share this link with your permission, of course. Because I know I've had conversations with a few moms regarding this exact topic, who are actually in the midst of dealing with these same things. And so, to the mom who feels like she's in the trenches of, and this is you had a mental health background. So to the mom who does it, like, you had the awareness, which is amazing. And you, even with the awareness, you had felt like, how did you not see these? To the mom who has no mental health background, who is beating herself up because how did she not see these things? Yes, please take it away. I would love to hear these tips.
Well, right, to the mom who has no idea and just is feeling berated every day, I'm going to start with tips for parents then first.
Okay.
And then we'll come back up for tips like on how to communicate with kids. But I do think it's important to also get help for yourself, right? Whether that is finding, I've done it through coaches throughout the years, finding a coach that fits best. If that is going to get professional help because you need a therapist, I urge you, if it's a friend, if it's a support group, whatever that is, there are groups online that are for parenting, kids who are parenting kiddos with a mental illness. But to not feel alone and feel like you have a place to talk, I think is the most important. Because a lot of people don't talk, that stigma is real. And I will tell you, I have had people say things to me, and they'll come up as we go through the tips, that I never thought I would hear people say. And so finding that right group, I think, is the most important. One of the tips too that I have that's the very top for parents is really letting go of the expectations. And I want to urge you to let go of the expectations on yourself as well as the expectations you had for your kiddo. So we expect that we're going to be perfect parents. We expect that we're supposed to know those answers, like you said. It is okay to reach out and get help. It's okay to find that group. It's okay to not have all the answers. And it's okay to ask a lot of questions and let people know you don't have the answers. With your kiddos, I think one of the worst things that probably a lot of parents do is have expectations of who that person should be instead of accepting them for who they are. Let go of those expectations. And some of those come from how we were raised. Some of those come from our community. I can darn sure tell you that parents in the school put those out there as well. I can't tell you through this journey how many parents stopped talking to me and kept their kids away from Kenzie. I would tell you and urge you to balance your grieving and your need to support your kiddo. It's okay to grieve what's happening. It's even okay if your kiddo sees your feelings. It's normal to normalize feelings. And if they see you modeling, they'll want to share more as well. Right? Just balance it. They don't need to hear everything that an adult should hear from you. But it's okay for them to know that I'm sad today. And how are you feeling, and how can we move forward with those next steps? I will tell you, not all circles of friends and family are helpful. And while you can't get rid of the family, watch what you talk about with them, right? You don't have to bring up these topics. I will tell you, more than one person in my circle in that age frame of 18 to 23, when things were just spiraling downward, I had more than one person say, just let her go. She's adopted anyway. I'm sorry, I did not get her from Build-A-Bear. She is part of my heart and soul, right?
Oh my gosh.
I am not going to let her go. I am not going to try everything in my power to help her. And know that some things are not in your power, it's in their power. One of the best pieces of advice that I heard from one of my mentors was, it's okay to let them make mistakes. Would you rather them make them now when you're there to catch them? Or would you rather them make them when they're 40 with a wife and kids, and how badly it will hurt their wife and kids? So let them make those mistakes. I am big, when I say stable routine, I am not a stable routine person. Let me be clear on that. You can't be a working mom and come home and put a meal on the table at 6:30 and put them to bed at 7. Trust me, I had a lot of people around me who did, and I made them crazy. But make it stable enough that your kids know we sit down and eat. Maybe we don't sit down at the table every night, right? Maybe we're all fried and we want to watch a movie while we eat tonight on a Friday night. All of that is okay, but make sure that there's enough structure, right? We all need to get sleep. We will eat at this time. Exercise is important. We do things together, right?
Yes.
Finding those stable routines. I'm going to say for parents, mindfulness, relaxation, finding the time to do the things you enjoy. You know, if it's a Friday night and you need a break, call a friend up and do a craft night, or go do something fun. Go do something fun with your partner if you have somebody who can come in and watch your kiddos. That wasn't always the case. People were a little fearful with Kenzie. So tag team. You know, one of you take a Friday night and go out, and the next one take a Saturday, go golfing, go do whatever, but take those breaks because they're important to be able to come home and deal with the things that are going to happen. You know, it's a road.
Yeah.
I know it's a road, and I know right now we're on the high part, and I know we will drop at some point and we'll come back up. This
Yeah.
road isn't ever going to end. And seeking support, I've said that several times along the way. I think tips for communicating with kids, and some of it I shared down below too, right? Is share and model your emotions. It's okay to come home and have a hard day and say what you're feeling. And the more you can say what you're feeling and your kids see and understand that, they will start being able to say what they see and feel as well. And I'm going to tell you, I can say all this and I'm not perfect at any one of them. I try my best. So trying is the first step. If you are in a conversation that is tense with one of your kiddos, and honestly, all of these fit with a spouse or a friend or a parent or a sibling as well, right? If you start to get angry or frustrated, your body language is going to give off that, and it is going to start to put that other person on edge as well. And then we're getting into that. We're both moving back into our brains.
Right.
Take that deep breath, pause, relax your body, and just be open to listening to what the other person has to say. And I will tell you another hard thing for me, but I think it is a hard thing for a lot of parents, is telling your kiddo when you were wrong and apologizing. Let your kiddos guide the conversation and be interested. Ask questions instead of trying to give advice. So they're coming to you with an issue. Ask them how they feel about it. What do they think is the best path forward? See what they have to say and guide with questions. Focus on what your kiddo is saying and not your response to it. You lose what they're saying. The conversation becomes too difficult, please take a break and walk away. Be clear, communicate it, and communicate. We'll come back to this when we're both in a better place. And this one, I have to say, I have said these 3 words to my oldest and my youngest in the last week, and I visually saw the stress and tension in their shoulders come away, and they both broke down into tears. And that is to tell them how proud you are of what they're doing. Let them know that you see them. And as parents, I think we get caught up in, well, we went through this and we're just fine. But we have forgotten what it felt to be at that day when you're going through it. And there's so many pressures on our kiddos to just hear that you're proud of them and that they are doing good, they're doing well, what they're trying, you see, makes all the difference in the world. I do have, so my website is www.bloomhealthyconnections.com. It is a relatively new website. As I had said before, I'm a newer company, so we have lots of stuff coming. And on there, I do have a one-pager of tips for parents. So please feel free to go out there and get your one-pager.
I'm I will ask. So I'm gonna get this converted to a YouTube link and I'll post it in the group, and then I'm gonna put your website right in that link. So if anybody wants to
Perfect.
go, because I was gonna ask if we can get these, but if you already have them, that is perfect.
Yeah.
Um,
And those are a little bit different, but I can look at posting some of these ones too. I think they're pretty close, actually. now that I
Okay.
look at it. Yeah.
Awesome.
I've added some more. It's a little bit of a difference, right? There's a few more tips on there.
Okay.
Um,
Awesome.
but yeah, definitely grab them and
Huge help. This was I normally end with my guest speakers asking them how important it is to take care of themselves. And this literally was what you ended with. Like to be your best self, like in order to handle you have to take care of you. You and your spouse, the whole team that's, involved in navigating the mental health of your children. It requires you to take time for yourself, to allow yourself the pause, the space, being able, because you need to be your best self. You need to be in your best headspace. You need to be calm. You need to be able to be understanding and listening and relaxed. Like you said, your body, it gives off, right? Like just the way that you're positioned when we get tense, right? Like we just look
yeah,
different. Yes, like I even feel it. Like I mean, this was heavy, and I feel myself like tensing up, and it's like, just relax. And it matters. And something that I talk about constantly in this group is our kids are learning how to love themselves by the way we love ourselves. They're learning how to handle their emotions by the way that we handle our emotions. And we can't tell them to do something that we're not doing ourselves. We can't get upset with them for not doing something because they're learning from actions, not words. And so when you're in the midst of this, if you beat yourself up, like they're going to beat themselves up, right? Like, and I truly just, the way that you ended with the need to really focus on yourself and getting yourself help and loving yourself and taking care of yourself, which self-care is more than just getting your hair done and your nails done, right? It's like taking time in the morning to set your intentions. What's your day going to look like? Spending some time journaling, getting to know yourself, asking yourself hard questions, your spouse, your partner, like having those discussions with him or her and really getting to understand like that connection and so that you're a team in this situation for the kids. Um, drinking water, eating good food, moving your body. Movement is, for me, it's so much more mental than it is physical. It's great for you physically, but mentally, it allows you time and space. And there's just something about sweating and moving and all of the things that happen. I'm no fitness coach, so I can't tell you all this, the scientific terminology, but when you're moving, it's like things change. You will come back, you leave angry, you will come back, a completely different
yeah.
person. And so allowing that to decompress and to relax. And this was such a help. And I am so grateful to you for your time and being vulnerable with us and being open. And I'm so excited for this business of yours to get off the ground. I can't wait to follow this journey. And I will, once I get this posted, please put your website.
Okay, I will. Thank
All
you so
right.
much. I enjoyed being here this evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And if anybody wants to connect, if this resonated with you, if you feel like you were in this situation, Kim is a great resource, and by all means, can they reach out to you?
Oh, absolutely. My Facebook, of course, which I just got going. So I already managed to put myself in Facebook jail this week. So if you can't find it, definitely the website has both my
Your
email
contact.
and ways to get a hold of me. Yep.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you for being a resource to us. We really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you so
Uh,
much. Thank you for everything you're doing for the moms.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. I will talk to you soon.
Okay. Bye.
Thank you.